In the third video of this group of videos, I'm going to show you how we can use refactoring not only to improve the design, so to doing design button up, but also to change the architecture. This has a larger impact, and also I'm going to show you that how can you use anti-gravity, which is based on LLM, to do usually these tasks that imply more changes and changes in a lot of places, but also how to use it in a way that you don't use so many resources. You try to be very strict and give very to the point instructions or specifications to the LLM. So the problem when I told you that in our solution we already have something better in the sense that you have better code, but there's something that I can observe in this class. In the customer class, if you look, I have something that is related with the semantics of the customer. So the amount is going to pay, the render points the customer gets for the rentals he does, or she does. But this statement is actually about presentation. If you think about it, it's more like presentation. And this separation between domain and presentation is something that is strongly related with architecture. So, what could be the idea? The idea could be, well, let's use the LLM to move this method to another class that represents the presentation. Of course, then this could be even in a different language, of course, like JavaScript, but this is just a toy example. Let's say that this presentation is in Java, but in some way we are designing already a two-layer architecture, the presentation and the domain. Okay, so let's start doing it. What I did, I wrote some instructions, very precise instructions. Well, the first one is create a video store presentation class and move it and move the statement method and move the statement method in class customer to it. Okay, change the tests because look, the tests were we are testing the statement, but now the statement is not in the customer class anymore. So I'm going to say, please change the test such that invoke the method in the video store presentation class. Do not run the tests. Why? Because usually LLMs use a lot of resources to run tests, and the tests fail. It generates errors and then retry and retry. And actually, probably, even if the tests do not run, I can look at the test, I can run the test myself, and if they fail, I can look at it and probably I can just get or fix them myself or get the help of the LLM to more precise instructions instead of fix tests. No, I have this precise problem and fix this precise problem. So let's run it and we have to wait a little bit. Okay. It's starting analyzing. Let's wait. So it presented an implementation plan. So implementation plan. So the goal is to move the statement, basically what I wrote. So modify customer class, add public to get rentals method to expose the list. Remember that we had these private methods, change visibility, get amount, the same thing, and remove statement method. And then in the video store, create this class statement method and implement, and then the tests. So it looks okay. I say proceed. So it start now doing the changes. So let's see what is the result. I can see each one of the classes. So this is where we remove the statement method from the customer and change the visibility. So it's okay. And you change the visibility of getter endpoints. That's okay. This is the public for the get rentals. Okay. Let's see the video store presentation. So this is the new class with the statement. Okay. And these are the methods. Actually, we have a performance method that we'll see later. But let's accept this. Let's accept this. Okay. And let's accept all. Okay, I'm not gonna retry. Let's just check now if it runs. I prefer to run here the tests, and I run them here, and I passed. So it was successful. So now I have a presentation, so a package presentation, and here I have this new class. So I separate this class as higher cohesion, okay, which is nicer, right? And then I have the presentation. Okay. Now that we have basically these two layers, the presentation and domain, we can verify that in the statement, so the presentation is very aware of the domain. So what happens here is that all the classes domain are known to the presentation. And this is not nice if you want to have some level of freedom to change the domain without having impact in the presentation. One solution to do that is to use data transfer objects that instead of sending the domain to the presentation, you send a data transfer object. And who's in charge of creating these data transfer objects? It's another layer, which is a service layer. So the service layer would work as a facade between the domain and the presentation. So this is architectural. We are doing refactorings to improve the architecture of the system. And I'm gonna suggest to use anti-gravity. I prepared a prompt where I say, well, define a plan to define a video store service class that works as a facade between the presentation and the domain model. Store the customers in a static hash map in class customer, which key is so in class customer, which key is the customer name. So now we need to do the tests. We need to somehow represent the database layer, but we are not going to do it in this demonstration. So basically, I'm going to just define a static hash map where I stored. So they are not persistent, but where I store during the execution, I can just get customers by key. Then define a method, which is get customer by name in the video store service, which returns the respective customer data transfer object given customer name. And then change the store presentation changing store presentation the method statement to receive the name, of course. Now I receive the name and invoke this to receive the DTO and present with the information. So I expect to receive here receive given the name here, I'm going to receive a DTO. So I'm going to invoke inside the statement. I want to invoke the service and then receive the DTO and present the DTO. And again, in order not to use a lot of resources, I say change the tests, but do not run the tests. Okay, so let's try to do it. Okay, and let's wait. So we already have the the implementation plan. Note, the customer class will now store all created instances in a static hash map. This assumes that customer names are unique and that we want all customers to be global accessible by name. That's nice. Then the proposed change is customer DTO that represent the customer statement data. So it just includes what is relevant for the presentation. Of course, if you have new functionalities in the presentation, basically we need to change these DTO to contain more information. It also contains the rental with the part of the information that is relevant for the rental. Then you have the domain layer. Look, you have the domain layer, and the domain layer basically defines the map, and you need to have a static method to get the customer so to access this. And of course, and then you in the service layer you propose this method I told him to create, and in the presentation I'm going to change it so to fetch, so invoke to receive customer name and invoke the service to fetch the customer DTO. And in the tests, they do the updates in the tests, and that's the verification plan, but I think they are not going to do it. So let's proceed, and let's wait a little bit more. It finished, so let's see the results. So it defines a rental DTO set that contains information about rental. Okay, look, it's the mount, so it's already the value that is associated with the method inside the rental that calculates the amount. Okay, then we have the customer DTO that has a list of rental DTOs, frequent points, and the total amount. So all the information that is needed for the statement. Then in the customer, it added the dash map. I'm gonna accept dash map here, there, and then the static method to, so in the customer, so when you create a customer, it just puts it in the hash map, which is nice. Okay, and then you have the customer to get the, good, this is a nice solution. And then in the video store, basically look, now you receive the customer, the string, and then you get the customer. Okay. Get by name, of course. Here you can return null, you could return an exception, would make more sense, but let's not worry about it now. So it gets get customer. Actually, this is not nice because get customer name, and then, oh, this is the service, of course. That's the service. So it gets the customer and converts. So that's where it uses the facade. So it converts the customer into the customer DTO. Okay, so that's the way it works. So it invokes to get from dash map. So that's nice. Let's accept changes. Then in video store presentation, yes, that's where I have this part. So you create a video store, an access to video store service, and then you basically invoke to get the cost. So you create an access, so an instance of the class, and then you invoke the get customer by name, and then use this DTO to present the stuff you need to. Okay, accept changes. And then you have the tests. Okay, let's just, we are not looking at the tests, just let's accept them, accept all. And then let's run it. And let's see. Nice, it works. So it works, and you already have 3 layers represented here. The DTO, we have to then decide whether DTO is nice here or not. For instance, suppose that, well, DTO make more sense inside the domain. I'm not going to use, in this case, I'm not going to use the LLM because I'm going to use a lot of resources for something that is simple. I just move it there. Moving refactors because it's very nice. It was cheap. Has no errors. I just can run the tests and everything is working. So it's nice. So what is the next thing that before I finish this part is that the advantage of having the presentation is that I can have several types of presentation. So now this is a text presentation, but suppose that I want to have an HTML presentation. So since of details of generating HTML and well, this is very nice for LLM. LLM is very good to all these transformations where you don't change the semantics of things. So let's ask her to do this for us. So what I'm gonna do is basically to tell, given the current statement, generate a statement HTML method that instead of text generates the corresponding HTML. Write a test to the new statement. Okay. Look, let's just do not run the tests. So now we need to wait a little bit so that it does the work for us. So it finished. Let's see what is the code that was generated. So in the video store presentation, now I have a statement HTML that actually it generates HTML instead of plain text. I'm going to accept it. And it generated a new class, which is the test. Okay, so like the other one. And I'm going to accept it. And I'm going to just run the tests, this test. So I can come here, run, see, okay, they passed, nice. Let's just write here to remove system.out.println, and what I want to write is this presentation. Plus new line. Let's run it just to see. Nice. Okay, that's it. It generates HTML. Okay, we finished this part about refactoring towards web architecture.